Welcome to the round table. I am Jennifer Eller, and with me today is my co-host Mike Hill, our producer Nick Wilson, and our guest today is Jesse Ulery and baby Mason. Yay!
Don't clap too loud. The baby's going to wake up.
Oh, God.
Got one eye peeking. So.
Yeah.
Jesse said he already threw a fit when she was in the shower today, so hopefully he's pretty calm for the rest of the
You mean
episode.
he got his screams all
He
out?
wore himself out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. Man.
Yeah.
Those babies come up with extra energy when it's time to scream.
Yeah, hopefully that bright light in his eyes. So, yeah. So what's your favorite thing about being a mom?
Ooh, probably like watching them learn and like make the memories and not gonna lie, infant is not my favorite stage. I like the cuddles, but I like when they can talk to me and we, experience and so yeah, I think that.
Yep.
That's what I always said. The infant part's way too hard. I'm like, if they can start tying their shoes, can they come out tying their shoes and wiping their butt? I'm like, if
Well,
they
you don't
can,
give birth, you can tell that. Because you would not say that.
if that could happen, it would be so much better. Like this having to wipe their butt and tie their shoes and put their clothes on.
Well, that's not so bad. It's a sleepless night. And and he's like on a different schedule from what I
Yes, he's a very fussy baby, so that's been.
Is a very fussy baby.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
Yep.
Yeah.
Likes to be held and screams when he's not, and so.
Okay.
Yep. That's why he was screaming so much during my shower.
That's all right.
To peek out, give him the passy, move the stroller a little bit.
Yeah.
Good old.
Or
good
you just
times.
tune out the screaming.
For a little bit. We have nicknamed him Piglet because he sounds like a pig.
Oh, really?
Like he squeals and he screams so loud. So like you can tune it out for a little
So
bit,
you
and then he
can't
gets
really tune
worked
it
up,
out.
and then
Yeah.
you're like, oh, Piglet's out.
Yeah.
So
No more tuning that out. Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah. Yeah. So today we wanted to share part of your story. You've had, infertility, 2 miscarriages, failed adoption, but then there were some bold prayers and surrender, and then, a miracle in the end. So, so you have another son, Noah. And how old's Noah?
he's 7. He'll be 8 in November.
Okay. So then how old was Noah when you trying to have another baby?
We first started trying after Noah turned 1.
Okay.
So, and it took us a whole year, and then I got pregnant. And then that was the first miscarriage. Lost, I think I was 9 weeks. So pretty early. And then it took a whole nother year, got pregnant again, and then another miscarriage. And then.
So what was that like emotional? It's like I've never experienced a miscarriage, so I don't know what that loss feels like.
It's hard. I think the hard part of it too is no one talks about them. So I mean, I've heard of people having miscarriages, but no one had ever talked about what it truly, feels like. And so then once you have one, then everyone's like, oh yeah, I had one. And it's like, well then why did we talk about it? And so that's one thing I've tried to do is be more open about it, just because I know someone else is going to end up going through it, and you don't know what to expect. I mean, everyone's different, so I mean, you can't really be prepared, but yeah, it can be lonely, and Richie went through it too, but it's a different experience for the men, because I think I really they don't really get attached till they're out as much, and so it was definitely more of him supporting me, and just then you also have to heal, of after the miscarriage, and then it's like once you do get pregnant again, then you're terrified for first 12 weeks, if not longer, just that something's going to happen again, and a lot of times with miscarriages there's no real cause, you don't, but the one I had taken ibuprofen, and I was like, oh, that was it was my fault, and then and so then it just talking to yourself and realizing it wasn't, there's nothing that you really could have done, and
Yeah, so they don't have any real like this is the reason it happens. There's no definitive.
not typically, yeah.
Wow.
I think you can, like, if you're a little farther along, like, send the baby for testing, and sometimes they can get an answer, but
Yeah.
a lot of times you just
So the
don't
first time you were 9 weeks along, how far along were you with the second one?
know. I think I was 6, 7. It was
Okay.
another early one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was the first 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yep.
what
And
was
then I think 2 years later, so my last miscarriage was in 2020, and then 2021, 22, we had a family friend that reached out and was like, hey, my sister is she's pregnant with her fourth. She's a single mom. She doesn't think she can do this. You know, they had reached out to my parents first because my parents have done foster care. They've adopted 3. So, you know, they knew that they would be willing. Of course, now they're in their 50s, so like we're not starting over. So they're like, no, but they knew like what we were going through, and we had always been open to adoption, but it was one of those, God would have to open those doors and be very clear that that's what he wanted for us. So we prayed about it and we said, okay, we'll do this. Like, it just kind of felt like things are falling into place, is what God wanted. So we communicated with the mom. She would send us like ultrasound pictures, updates from appointments. We got a lawyer, went through all that. We had to do like a home study and, you know, all these things. So he was born December 2nd. And so we were down there. We went to the hospital. We were there the whole time she was laboring. We got to come in like within 30 minutes of him being born, and we were the first ones to hold him, and they had put us in our own room and everything, so we got to have him in our room for a while, and then she took him for a little while, and so they have 30 days from when the baby is born to make their final decision. Like, they can sign paperwork, but they have 30 days, and so our lawyer was going to be sending someone down that within 24 hours to have her sign paperwork, and we had him in our room, and there's a caseworker, like social worker for the hospital, that was working with us too, and she called Richie, and she's like, I'm sorry to say, like, she's decided she wants to parent.
Oh,
and we're like, okay. So she's, you know, take your time with him, and then when you're ready, page the nurse, and, you know, the nurse will come and get him and take him back, and so we had to leave that day without a baby. I mean, we had the crib up, like everything was ready. I mean, we were down. We thought he was gonna. I mean, we knew that there was the possibility that she could change change her mind. But I mean, I asked her multiple times. I'm like, "Are you sure this is what you want? Because I don't want you to make this decision and not, you know, I want you to be certain." And she's like, "Yeah, that's what I want. You know, this is what's best." And so, sorry. Then, so we had to give him back, you know, like, it was just confusing, you know, we hadn't really gotten a huge attachment to him. We only had, you know, less than 24 hours with him, but just, I think more of like what we had planned for the future, like what we thought our future was going to look like we were going to have this second little boy, and, you know, we had all these plans, and
Yeah, because you had to go through a mourning and a grief process.
Yeah. So it was different than like a miscarriage, but it was still, like the process of grief and mourning, and, you know, all the plans you have for the future, and then they're not, and you don't have any control. You have to, you know.
Wow. How's he doing? How are they doing? Do you know?
We don't really know. I mean, last I knew they were doing well, and I hope that they still are. She's had 2 more kids, so she's up to like 7, I think. So I we just pray. I mean, that she is doing well, and that they're all doing well, and
yeah, I'm just gonna be honest. That's the most confusing thing to me ever. That these are the conversations that I have with God, and I probably shouldn't. But I'm thinking, okay, there's all these people out here who want biological children, and they are trying, and they are like, they're going down these roads, and somebody else is having 7 of them, and they, you know, and don't have the family structure. Like, I just, those things are, you want to talk about confusing. That part is confusing.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
why so easy for these people to get pregnant and hard for them to take care of. And I don't even mean this bad, but probably living off the government, not having a dad, not having any of those, things in place. And here's these families that would create great homes, and they struggle with, having kids. So I'm not that means anything, but that's always been my struggle.
Yeah. It was hard to not be angry at God.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of why, like, the whole through the miscarriages and the adoption, and if not, he's still good. Like we just kept, we had it on our wall. Like we just kept, and I'm like, do I really truly believe that? Like I say it over and over, but it was hard to really in my heart, truly believe yep, he's still good, but being so mad at him and not understanding, what his plan was for us. 'Cause it seemed like with adoption, everything was falling into place. Everything,
right.
In my head, I was like, if it's not meant to be, God will close doors. He'll close them. And he just kept opening doors and opening doors. I mean, our lawyer that we met, he had the armor of God on his desk. He prayed with us. It just, we're like, okay, this was meant to be.
Everything's lining up.
Yes. And then to get down there and it was very hard.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So that was December of 2020?
I think that was 2021.
2021.
Yeah. It might have been 20. I don't know. It's a blur.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's a lot running together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So then during that time, you're just still trusting that God hopefully someday will give you
we just,
baby.
constantly, praying, God heal, whatever. I mean, we did 3 rounds of IUI and
What's
did
IUI?
interuterine insemination.
Okay.
So they would take Richie's sample and use a catheter to place it really high in my uterus
Got
to,
it.
give the best chance. That I had to do medication and trigger shots and, we did 3 rounds of that, did testing and everything. Everything was fine. Unexplained secondary infertility or something is they have a name for it.
Wow.
But really they just don't know. That's really...
Yeah. Just give a name to something they have no idea.
Yeah.
Which made no sense. I mean, you conceived with no one. And you said it didn't take very long. I mean,
a couple months and
so you thought it would be easy this time, and then it's not easy.
Yeah. So it was, I think, 3, almost 4 years before I got pregnant with Mason. And that was a God thing because we had started the process of building our house and we had all this stuff going on. We had, I think March of that year was the last IUI we had done and it had failed. And really they say after the 3rd one, if it hasn't really worked, it's probably not. And we really weren't good candidates for IVF and that's expensive. And that just, for us, IVF also we're is that going around God, in a way. And we were processing that. And so we're we're just going to focus on building the house and focus on Noah and continue to pray and believe that if that's God's plan, he's going to, it's going to work. It's going to happen. And so then, I think it was October.
Well, we did a series.
Yes.
That said does prayer work? And you did a bold prayer. So what was your what did your bold prayer
that
say?
God would cure my infertility. And I remember, writing it on the white postcards and we hung up on the wall to make that cross. And, I continued to believe it and continued to pray it. And then I think it was maybe 3-4 months, maybe after that series, then I found out that I was pregnant. And I remember I cried, saw that. And I'm like, because when you're going through infertility, you always think you're pregnant every month. You're like, oh, this symptom feels different. Oh, I'm a couple days late, maybe. And you test after test after test and negative. And so you kind of get numb to them, or I did, where I'm like, well, I'll take one if I'm late, but it's probably gonna be negative. It's not. And I had to be here at the cafe opening. So it was 5 o'clock in the morning and I'll just take it and see. And I just fell to the ground and went and woke Richie up. I'm like, look at this. And
Wow.
And then, just immediately I'm like, thank you, God. Like, it was all him.
Do you think your prayers changed or anything with that series and writing that bold prayer up there? I mean, do you think you surrendered something more, or just really like did finally give it to God? And I don't know. Did that look different for those next couple months than it had in the past?
I think like in my heart, yeah, because I think I always, would say and I believed like I'm giving it to God, but I don't know that I had truly in my heart surrendered that, like, even if not, like he's got it. And so, yeah, it's hard sometimes, I think, to truly, like, in your head, you're like, you believe it, but in your heart, you're kind of have some reservations. And so I think, yeah, I'm like, I can't do this on my own. I have zero control. Like it's 100% God.
Right.
And so I think truly coming to terms with that. And then also I think I kind of got into a point too, where if it wasn't his plan for us to have another kid, I wouldn't say I was okay with it, but I was more open to, maybe it's just Noah. Our focus is Noah and raising him up. And so, yeah, I think I just had kind of got to that point with my prayers, and yeah. And then.
And how much of, I mean, this is a little bit off the subject, but through all of those times, how much of that affected your relationship with Christ? Because, I mean, I always look at people, and I think it's hard. Like, I think it's easy for us to say, I'm just going to power through and, it's just all okay. But it seems like there are just certain things in life that are, when it's not going the way that, it's not like you were asking for $1 million.
Yeah.
It's not like you were asking for things that take it or leave it type things. I mean, it was like, this is life altering things. And, I just think, I don't know if it affects us in our mind, which then affects our, spiritual journey. And I mean, did you notice any of that? I mean, was there any of like, oh man, I mean, I put all of my faith, and I mean, I know you said you're angry, but did you ever get to the point of just like, not that you don't believe, but maybe this just doesn't work?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, it definitely, I feel like, was a roller coaster of being angry, and then, then no, I like, he's going to do it. Like, I have to, you kind of, what's the word? Like, if I do this, then God's going to answer this prayer, like, I'm like, I'm a good parent, so God's going to, like, there's no reason, and kind of bargaining, I guess would be the word with him. And yeah. And then there's times when, like, maybe he doesn't care. Maybe it's just something that I want. And Richie and I had lots of conversations of maybe God did answer it, and the answer was no, and I'm just not accepting of that, which was really hard to think about too. So.
Yeah, because that's the other hard part of, like, when he does say no, even for a season, it's hard to continue to be bold.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you've been bold and it failed. I mean, I don't know if that's the right word, but you've been at those places where you're like, you really ask, and then you're like, and I think that's a hard thing for people to get over is, can you still be bold? Can you still take those steps out? When in the past it's not always, for lack of a better term, worked. I mean, I don't know if that's, what about your relationship with Richie? Was that hard? Like, because I've heard with people that are struggling through those things that it's hard on a relationship. Did it make it better?
I think for us, it brought us closer.
Wow. Okay.
Because it was, I mean, we truly were a team going through these things and having to rely on each other, for support, because no one else knew what we were feeling or going through besides the other person. And I mean, we spent lots of times praying together and praying specifically like for a child, and so I think, I mean, there are definitely times that were harder, but I think overall it brought us a lot closer together. And when, I think on our last podcast, we had talked like when Richie really got serious with the Lord and his relationship, and that helped me to really get more serious. And so I think doing that together, like it was tough. I wouldn't wish anyone to have to go through it, but I think it really did help us get closer and stronger.
Yeah, because I have just heard, again, I don't know or know a lot of people that are going through it, but I've heard before that it's like, there's always like, is it my fault? Is it his fault? Or you live with this like, man, I can't, like, it's because of me, and then the guilt, and then it just builds into, hurts harder on the relationship because it's just personally difficult.
Yeah.
And I've heard moms say there's nothing like it. Like, there's no other challenge in life that's like
Yeah.
going through infertility and miscarriages and the struggles. That's what I've heard. Would you say the same?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just like you feel like your body's just failing you. Like you're a woman, like, this is what God's made you do, is to reproduce and have these kids, and your body's just not doing, like, something's wrong with you, and just kind of going through that, and doing all the testing, and everything looks fine. Like, well, clearly something isn't. Like it worked once, and now what's going on? So
Yeah, so I think this is a big question for a lot of moms. So I think this is happening more often. Like, when you said that too about miscarriages, like, I didn't even know that was a thing. Like, back when we had kids, I'd never even heard of that before. Like, I'd never even heard of people having miscarriages.
Yeah, probably not a lot.
Yeah, but it's, maybe you're right, because people just didn't talk about it. That very well could be. Maybe more people are just open. But anyway, when you're going through, I think there are more women, for whatever reason, whether it's waiting longer, to have kids, whether it's diet, I don't know. Like, a lot of people will blame different things because I think people would say infertility is higher than it used to be, or harder to have a baby, like with a lot of people, than it used to be. So if you were going to help guide somebody out there that is like, hey, we've been trying for a year, we've been trying for 2 years, what would you tell them? Would you tell them? Because I think this is the dilemma. At least I hear this is the dilemma. So, am I taking God out of it by going to the doctor and doing all of the doctor stuff, or should I just pray? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I think there's a both.
Yeah.
Like she
well, that's
said,
what I'm asking you.
I think she, like, when she said, like, then do the in vitro, I think that is kind of taking God out of it, because you're creating that life. You're taking the egg and you're taking the sperm and you're creating that and putting it back in. So you're kind of manipulating maybe what God wants. And not to say that's wrong, but, because I know there's a lot of people have had babies that way, but I think that would be something to really wrestle with. Is that the way it's supposed to?
Because I think this is where people would be. Am I not trusting God by whatever that is? I don't use it by taking shots of something, by doing certain things. Should we just trust? Is it a both and? And I'm not saying there's a right answer, but if you were going to help somebody, because I guarantee you, people that are listening to this, that there are people struggling with that.
yeah.
I know a couple people right now.
Yeah, I've met lots of people through the journey that have, are going through it or have been going through it, or, there's multiple women that have recently had babies or about to have babies that were going through it when I was, and it was just seeing God work, and everyone has different journeys. But I really think it's both, because, sometimes it is just a medical thing, like your hormones are off balance, or something isn't, you need more progesterone, like things like that. And then, you can go to the doctor and kind of get those answers. But I think it's also, you're continuing to pray and seek after God. And I think he's going to open the doors that, and if that is for someone is IVF, then, it's expensive, but, maybe your insurance is going to cover it, and, or other ways. I think everyone has different journeys to getting to the babies. Some people can just easily have them and it's not an issue, and others, have to be a little more patient and, wait a little bit longer.
What about for the people that, again, going through this, how long do you wait before you just say, you know what, we're going to adopt? Because I think that's the other thing is like, how long do you keep trying? Do you just say, you know what, we want to be parents? And because I would assume, again, these are all things I don't know, but I would assume that there is a struggle of, well, still not my biological.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
What?
No, I just know how I'd answer that question.
How would you answer?
Well, I think it's each individual person. I think when the time is right, God's going to reveal to you that it is time for you to adopt, if that's the journey that He wants you to go down.
Because I've heard people say
know?
it feels like you're giving up
But then
by
sometimes-
adoption. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, I just given up on the process and I'm going to just go adopt. Or
I think sometimes that's God's plan. It's like, you adopt and then sometimes people conceive after that. I've known people that's happened to
Right.
them. It's like, but that's what He wanted maybe for that time. It's like, you were supposed to adopt this child. That's what I had for you. And now I have this for you.
right.
I remember I told somebody one time, it's like, you still have a purpose right now. So don't lose sight of how God wants to use you now. Yeah, you want this, but you still have a purpose and to reach people for Him. So don't get caught up in I want, because you're going to lose sight of the good things that He has for you
Yeah.
now, and so, because it can be consuming,
Yeah.
I mean, I got pregnant with my kids pretty quickly, but it's still consuming when you want that so badly, and I can imagine month after month after month of, that desire that's just deep within you. That
Yeah. Did you have any of those feelings when you came to the place of saying like, okay, we're just going to adopt?
I don't think so, because for us, like, we were open to adoption, but it really wasn't something, that we wanted to do. It was more of something we felt like God was opening the doors to it, because, I mean, the person reached out to us, and, like, we weren't seeking it. And I don't know that we would have if that wouldn't have happened.
Right.
I think we would have, and we, maybe would have just had Noah, and that would have been, I don't think adoption is for everyone. It's hard. It's expensive. It,
Right.
and some people it's just not what they feel being called to do. And
Right. Right.
that's all I got. We're
Well, I
just
got a
talking about
couple.
that.
I got
Go
a couple
ahead.
other questions. So, one of the things that I think is hard sometimes is, and you might not be able to answer this, but maybe we can talk about it together. Is, when you're so focused for so long, praying boldly is easy. You know what I mean? Because you're just thinking about it all the time. Like, this is what I'm praying for. This is what I'm praying for. This is what I'm praying for. And then I see sometimes like, okay, God answered the prayer. And then what's the next bold prayer? What are that next thing? And a lot of people, I think, once they've got this huge answer, sometimes they're like, what? I mean, I don't even know what else to ask for, And so I think that's something that when we're talking about, because I think God calls us to be asking boldly for Him to intervene all of the time in multiple different areas of life, in other people, with other people. So did you find yourself in this not only while you're praying for this, but also still being able to pray boldly for other things? And has that, I don't even know if that makes sense of what I'm saying, but you know what I mean? Like, are you able to maybe pray for other people, or do you guys have other, bold prayers that you're hoping God will answer? Or
yeah. I mean, I think once, like, I got pregnant, then it was praying, like, for a healthy baby, and then that was the focus for a while. And then, like, while I was pregnant, my grandma got sick, and then, I was praying that God would heal her and God would, take her pain away, and she ended up passing. And so I think I struggled a little bit with that, because, He answered this prayer and I was hoping that one, but I think he did answer it, not the way that I wanted, but she's not suffering. She's in heaven with Him. Like,
so your prayer life has just been still good. Like, it just keeps
Yeah.
going. That's what I was trying to get at. Because I think sometimes once you get something, your prayer life is just kind of like,
It's done.
not. Yeah, I mean, go back to praying for, will He please sleep at night, or stop. Which
we
again,
do put that in our prayers.
yeah, which isn't wrong. But again, the idea of how can we keep dreaming about the things that God wants us to do? Because I think that's because people in your journey that are going to listen to this, they're going to see God, right? They're going to see, that God answers, that God did, and that, the people that know you and the journey that you've been on, and be like, that there is a God and He is involved by your story, and how do we continue to go down that road? So, yeah. Well, thank you, first of all, for coming on and sharing that, because again, I think it is good to talk about it. Like, I think it's good for women that are struggling to be able to talk to other women about the struggle, and that, I mean, it's not shame, it's not, it should be something that they should have support and have somebody to talk to and somebody to walk the journey. Because I'm assuming it's not an easy journey, to be able to walk. So thank you for sharing that story. And again, just being honest that there were times when you felt like God wasn't listening, and you guys still together prayed boldly for, God to intervene. And great advice too, like that for you and Richie, that it helped you grow, in your relationship together and in your faith. And I think those are all lessons of whatever the thing that's going on in our life that's causing struggle. We have choices, either to push in or run away. And you guys pushed in and worked through, and now you're on the other side of it, and with a better relationship, with seeing God answer prayers and being able to share with other women that are out there, that are struggling, kind of how to be able to get through the journey. So thank you for sharing all that. So when this comes out, make sure that you like, share, comment. And again, if you're listening, make sure that you go online and watch. So go to our YouTube channel. While you're at our YouTube channel, make sure that you subscribe. That way you can get updates on the roundtable and everything else that's going on here at Life Church. And again, just come to church. You're going to see Jessie. She's here, it seems like, all the time. So I don't think it's first, second. I mean, it just, you guys are around, and, so make sure that you come up and say hi. And again, just thank you for sharing, and thanks for your story. And again, thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.